Hey
Cool.
everybody, this is Petra Monaco with the Rebel Stand, and with me I have Tyler from Tyler Violence. Welcome back. We've talked
Hey.
before. We've talked before about misgivings, but now,
Yeah.
now you're doing something a little different, a little bit more solo. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So, a lot of people ask me this, so I do want to kind of address it. Basically, misgiving it kind of just fizzled out, and it wasn't like there were no hard feelings or anything. Like, just different members of the band had varying levels of priority to the band because of their, careers and their families and, things of that nature. So it just got to a point where, um, really we just couldn't keep it going at the rate that we wanted to, and if we were going to take it seriously, um we had to keep at it at a pace that we couldn't keep at it. So we all split up amicably. We labeled it as a hiatus because we didn't want to count out the possibility of us coming back together in the future, but it just doesn't seem very feasible as of right now. And I wanted to continue doing music. So I started Tired Violence, and it's my solo project now. I'm still
Yeah,
friends with everybody, though. We're all still good, just in case anybody's wondering. And yeah.
no, I really appreciate a little bit about that because people might not know exactly what happened because I mean, I will be honest, I didn't really, I think I saw the hiatus something, something, but that was that. And then obviously
Yeah.
the pandemic kind of
Yeah,
happened.
it was difficult because we didn't know whether. Yeah, no, and we just didn't know like what to tell people because we were like, well, we kept having conversations about should we get back to doing this again? Should we, get back on it or not? Can we get back on it? Are we gonna have issues again? Are we gonna tell everybody we're still here and then just end up letting them down? Like, so it kind of just quietly faded, unfortunately. And I do apologize to everybody for that kind of happening. I mean, let's be real, we weren't like huge, so like a lot of people probably didn't notice, but for the people who did really follow us and
Yeah.
actually did care, like I do apologize to them, but I do hope that they take the time to check out my new project and everything, and I hope they enjoy it.
Yeah, so let's talk about your new project. I know I've seen a few things, and you've done some really fun stuff on your social media about with requests and stuff like that. So let's talk about Tired Violence a little
Mhm.
bit. Tell us a little bit more about what that's all about.
Okay, so basically, it's no secret. I'm pretty transparent with
Yeah.
everything, as I was with Misgiving. I think that's just the best way to go about it. Um, I have a lot of issues with, I guess, like mental health and whatever. I don't really try to use it as like a cry for attention. I don't like post about it on social media, and I'm not saying that everybody who does post about it is crying for attention or whatever, but I know that there's that stigma about that, and
Yeah.
I usually keep it to myself for the most part and just try to take my medication, go to therapy, and deal with it. And uh, my outlet per se, or my way of externalizing it, really is through doing music. So Tired Violence really was a title that I had heard prior because my favorite band Under Oath had a documentary of the same name, and it just resonated with me really hard. And of course, like, I don't ever want to feel like I'm ripping anybody off, but it just felt like home, and it felt
Hmm.
like very personal. And so that's what became the title of my project. And so the whole idea behind it is just Tired Violence is the name of my project, my brand. It encompasses me as an individual and all of the music that I want to write. I don't want to be held to one genre. Like, I don't want to say like, oh, I'm a metalcore artist or I'm a whatever artist. I would like to um, really just be able to create whatever I want and for people to be able to hear that. So if they're following Tired Violence, it's one of those things where don't expect to hear all of the same genre or all the same styles from me all the time. Because I'm probably going to branch out and do stuff of varying genres or styles, as I go along. It's whatever I feel like doing at the time. It is a project where I want to externalize all the things that I'm going through or things that I've been through and get that out to people who may be also having issues
Mhm.
or have had them, and solace or that comfort in knowing that there is somebody out there who does understand and who is speaking on behalf of these issues so they don't feel so alone. And that's my biggest thing because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if I wasn't doing music, I would want to be a therapist of some sort, most likely an adolescent like
Mhm.
guidance counselor or something of that nature.
As a former therapist, I no longer work in the profession, but somebody who struggled with my own mental health here and there for various reasons. I appreciate that, and I really appreciate your transparency about it, because I do think we need to have more conversations. We need to let
Mhm.
people know they're not alone. We need to normalize therapy, right? Like you mentioned, he said, I go to therapy if I need to. And I don't know too many people that were like, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Right.
We have therapy in
For
our
sure.
house. With my son who's autistic, we currently have therapy because we need help. Like some of the stuff is beyond my, ooh, it's so big. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's a struggle sometimes, right? Um, so I love your transparency, and I love that you
Yeah,
are
for
willing to
sure.
share all of that so openly, because I work with adolescents, and that is the best time to work with adolescents when they're in that age, because they're trying to figure out who they are. And that's where a lot of the anxiety and some of the challenges
Yeah.
see, happen, because they're sort of in an identity crisis. I mean, I relate to that.
Right.
And then it takes forever to figure out who the
Yeah, no,
heck you
definitely.
are. And that causes so many challenges. So I certainly appreciate all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I have siblings, both of my siblings. I'm the oldest out of the three, but both of them have Asperger's. So
Mhm.
there was a lot of therapy in my house for years trying to get them on track and, helping my parents to understand. And so, I have a big soft spot for, people who are on the spectrum, a very big appreciation for them, and as well as the whole adolescent thing hit
Yeah.
me pretty hard because I felt like I had a lack of guidance growing up. And I mean, my parents were separated, and there were polar opposites, and one would reinforce things that the other didn't want,
Mhm.
and it was very confusing. It was a very like, you know, hard time, because I
Yeah.
felt like I could rely on one for one thing and one for another thing, but I couldn't fully rely on either of them for some things, and it was just pretty difficult. And you know, I'm good with my parents now. Like as I've gotten older, I've started to understand more. And me and my dad are actually like pretty close now, although we used to like
Mhm.
really get at each other and didn't really get along for a while. But we're great now, and just with my mom, things sometimes can still be a little difficult. But I'm working at it, and it's one of those things where I understand when people talk about bad relationships with their parents and things of that nature. So I think I really could help a lot of people out as long as, my music landed in front of them, and they were into that specific style.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. Growing up in foster care, I have zero relationships with my parents. um, I
I
can
feel,
really
I feel,
I can relate in some areas, but not at all in others. Like I have no love for them, and it's like whatever. And people are like, "Oh, but that's your mother," and I'm like, "Yeah."
I feel, I mean,
Like, okay.
but okay, like I mean, to be fair, like I definitely understand to an extent, but I mean, my
Yeah.
aunt who lives in Rhode Island was a foster mother to a lot of children, and a lot of them grew up, not really caring much for their parents, but viewing their foster parents, my aunt and
Yeah.
my uncle, as real parents and as like
Yep.
legitimate caretakers and have a lot of respect and love for them. And so at least you still have some sort of relationship, hopefully, with a paternal figure.
Well, I don't. And I come because of my own healing that I've done, I'm good with it. I think what helped me is compassion. Um,
That's
it,
good.
you know, I feel like
Right.
if we give our parents a little bit compassion and understand they're doing the best they can, then we can heal from that and grow from that and forgive
Right.
from that. But again, I love that your
Yeah,
music.
no, and I think that's what I had to do when it came down to it.
Yeah, and I think your music definitely has a great way of sharing it. And I love that you're not like, I'm not niching down. Like I'm big anti-niche in most ways. Like, I it's okay. I do
Right.
I do different art. Like I wood burn and I paint and I do all these different things, as you can see. And people are like, oh, you should do one thing. And I'm like, no,
Right.
no, some of us aren't wired that way. Some of us need to have different things, right? Like with your music, it might be metal and it might be not. So
Definitely.
I
I
love that
definitely feel that.
you're open to probably like exploring and feel it all out in a way.
I'm the type of person who like hyper fixates on things, and I don't know how long I'll hyper fixate on them for
Yeah.
an undetermined amount of time, and then I'll kind of just put it down, and I'll still have love for it, but I'll just kind of that interest or that desire will have kind of fizzled out. Yeah, so I think like there's so many things out there that I could be doing, like I said, there was an extended period of time where I was building plastic models, and I thought that was really fun, and I really enjoyed it, and it was a good like peace exercise for me, and it helped me stay focused and calm at times. And then I moved from that and I started getting into like competitive like gaming, and then like I moved from that, and I was into these things each for like around a year or so, just very strongly into them. And usually my obsessions, we'll call them, I guess, like don't last that long.
Yeah.
They usually don't keep my attention that long. There was a period of time where I was learning to do like magic tricks and stuff like that. Like there's always things that I bounce around to that I have an interest in or
Mhm.
have had an interest in at one point. And with music, I think it's the same. I want to explore different genres, different avenues, and be inspired by and write different things because I don't want to get bored or feel complacent. And I think I just want to continue to grow as a person and as an artist and try to reach as many people as I can. I know from a marketing standpoint that might not be a good idea, and I know that some people might say like, "Oh, well, you're going to lose your audience." There are going to be people that are going to be like, "Well, he changed his style and I don't want to listen to it," or "I don't like this new stuff he's putting out," or whatever. But those are fair weather fans anyway. They don't really care about
Yeah.
like you as an artist. They don't really care about like you as a person.
Yeah.
They like the little bit of music they heard from you, and if you stray away from that, they're never going to like anything you do again, and they're going to damn you to hell. And I don't really care if I lose fans like that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like I love the fans I have, but if they're gonna leave based on the fact that I want to grow as a person and an artist, then like they never cared to begin with.
Yeah, I feel that. Like I totally get that. I can't keep a job for the life of me for similar. I'm way too disjointed. Too many interests. Too many. Oh God, I can do it for 3 years, and then I'm like, done.
Right.
So and I think we need to
For
normalize
sure.
more
No,
of
I get
that
that.
too. I think there's more people like that out there, and they just don't know it's okay to explore different things because we're told to just stick with one thing for life.
Right.
And then there's people like you and me
That's so boring.
and like no, we have all these different things we're interested in, we want to explore. Like right now for me it's wood burning
Yeah.
season. In a month from now I'm going to be crocheting probably, and then I'll paint, and then whatever, you know play recorder for
See, I
like a
like that.
month.
Keep up the creative energy.
Yeah. And I feel like we need to normalize that because I've had a gazillion careers, and I've always said I wanted to help people
Right.
and I wanted to do art, I wanted to write books. And somebody's like, oh, you can't have the cake and eat it too. And I'm going, well, why not? Why can we not
Yeah, you
do,
can. You have an entire lifetime.
right?
You have an
Like
entire
what?
lifetime to like do everything. And although that's an undetermined amount of time, like you still do what you can with what you have. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
For me, like when it comes to the fans and everything, like I said, like if they don't have to. The thing is, the crazy thing and what I love about music is like nobody's obligated to listen to me. Nobody's
Yeah.
obligated to be my fan just because I make music. And I think that that's like what's great about it is that means the people who do listen to it, genuinely like it or want to support me. And
Yes.
like I said, the people who do leave, like they don't have to like everything I release. I get that, you know, they can decide that they don't like my new stuff or whatever. And I wasn't like trying to like shame people into liking everything I create by saying that. And I wanted to preface that because I realized it could sound kind of bad. But it is one of those things where it's like if they drop me entirely and like boycott me or whatever, or if they
Yeah.
tell people I'm a trash artist now or anything, and they start basically like downplaying my skill or my creativity because I decided to do something new. That's the type of like negative energy I just don't need in a fan base.
Well, no, and rightly so. But I mean, I can just think of my favorite artist, and I know at least a couple of songs where I'm like, oh, I don't like that one. And but they're still my favorite artists, right? It's just that one
Yeah, and that's
song where I'm
fine.
just like, not
For
jive with,
sure, for sure.
whatever.
I totally get that.
And so for me, it's usually about
Yeah,
the lyrics. It's
I
not
get that. Like, I mean, you don't have
necessarily
to vibe with everything.
no, like why would what, that's boring and weird and not normal. Right?
Right. No, I mean, if you have an artist that like you love and like everything they create, you love solely for the fact that they created it, like I feel like
Yes.
that's disingenuous too, because I feel like you love like everything they create just because, and you don't have like an actual reason. But if you have a legitimate reason as to why you like everything they create, then like that's the best type of fan, you know,
Yep.
for sure. The ones who like actively support and go out and you know listen to your music and try to show it to other people and stuff. And that's another thing that like I think a lot of people don't understand is the difference between like active support and like basically no support. And
Hmm.
and I know that sounds really weird, but I've been talking to people about this, and I'm like, if someone tells you they support you, and all they do is say like, "Hey, man, I don't really have a problem with the fact that you're doing music. Keep it up," or you know, like, "Hey, you sound good. Like, you know, keep on doing it." That's cool and all, but I don't really feel like that does anything to like help further your career or like, you know, and no one, like I said before, no one has to support you. No one has
Yes.
to. They're not obligated to.
Nope.
But if people really do genuinely want to see you succeed, they could take like 5 minutes of their time and do something as simple as sharing your music or sending it to somebody or
Yeah.
streaming one of your songs or whatever, and then be like, you know, they've done their part. And that's active support.
Yeah.
But I feel like aside from active support, there isn't much real support. It's just basically saying like, yeah, like it doesn't bother me that you make music and like if you want to keep doing it, like sure, go ahead, you know? And I feel like
Well,
that's the type of support that people think that like is doing something or that they're giving.
yeah.
And it hurts a lot of artists more than anything.
I agree. Like, I mean, I might not be a musical artist, but I'm still an artist
Artists are hungry for
nonetheless.
attention. We got to be honest.
Um,
Yeah, we got to be
and
honest. Like I mean, we're like we're hungry for attention. 100%.
yes,
Like we are. Like we get out there, we make these, you know, songs, we make these pictures or these books, and we put
yeah,
in all this time, and we're really hoping that somebody will notice, that somebody will, you know, give the compliments, but also be like, you know, what can we do to make this better for you? What can we do to make this bigger for you? And that's what we're really hoping for.
well,
We love the fact that you like what we do. We
yeah.
love the fact that you support us, quote unquote, by telling us to continue doing it. It is validating at times.
Well, I
Go
think too,
ahead.
but the other part is too that people can't fathom success, right? They can't wrap their head around it. I mean, we see bands like those really big bands on stage, we cheer them on, we're like, oh yeah, it's great to see them, but
Right.
there's a lot of work that had to happen for them to get there. And then you have your friends in your local community and they're like, yeah, yeah, it's
Mhm.
great, but they can't fathom or see how that can be real. Although they have gone to let's be honest, people fear success for whatever their reason, fear for success. And I've known this in my work. It's why I do the work I do as a life coach and a business coach, right? But the reality is
Yeah.
people can't wrap their head around what success means. And like, oh no, you
Mhm.
just need to stay safe, have a job, 9 to 5, and die. And people are like, no, there's more. But again, they can't believe in it because they haven't been taught that it's a
Right.
possibility, right? It's all mindset 99.99% of the time.
Definitely. I think success is one of those things where like, you know, it is what you make it. Like if you decide that you're successful by, you know, like doing that, you know, routine 9 to 5, having kids, you know, having a job, dying, whatever. If that is what you define as success, then like by all means, like,
Yes,
you
do
are
that.
successful, don't let anybody take that from you.
Absolutely.
And but like at the same time, like some of us aren't happy with that and want something different. And so, it's just, I think that I don't want to be rude and be like people are inherently selfish or or whatever, but um it does help artists a lot. And like I said, like no one's obligated to support us. No one's obligated to spend their money or their time or their effort on
Yep.
us. But if they're going to actively try to tell you that they support you and that they want the best for you and all this other stuff, then like they can do these very small things that take very little effort, especially with things like social media existing, in order to help you grow as an artist and try to help you achieve the success that you yourself are looking for as an artist.
Yeah.
And I think we need to start normalizing, as we've talked about earlier, that sort of conversation,
Yep.
because I think a lot of artists are afraid to talk to people in that manner because they're like, oh, they're not going to want to support me. Oh, they're going to think I'm being rude or needy or whatever. But like, honestly, if you were in any other profession and you needed something to succeed, you would ask for it or you would look
Yep.
for it and you would try to obtain it. And I think
Absolutely.
that like this is no different.
I absolutely agree. It just reminded me of the time I had to ask for a raise and a switch in position for it to happen. It's that. I mean, when you're in a
No,
career,
definitely.
you strive for that new position, the raise, management, or whatever, or maybe not, but you strive for something because you want to live comfortably, and
Right.
safely. So you make things
Definitely.
happen. You take courses, you go to college, like you do all these things to make that happen in a
Mhm.
career. And I agree, we need to normalize this conversation and be like, hey, it would really mean the world to me if you would share my post about my latest music piece or art piece or whatever. It's not,
Yeah.
like you said, it takes maybe two
Mhm.
seconds to share a post. Like, click share,
It
done.
does, and what's crazy to me is I see all these posts. I see all these posts from people where they're like, "Hey, like support your local artists. Hey, do this, do that for your people who, are smaller." And especially on Facebook in the music scene,
Yeah.
I see people saying like, "Drop your links below and check out all this music and stuff like that." But the thing is like, is I know their intentions are good, but it does little to yield results, unfortunately, because the people who see it do the same thing that they do when the band posts it. And unfortunately, they
Yeah.
just keep scrolling. There's nothing that grabs their attention or anything. And I'm not trying to guilt people into like sharing me or anything like that or listening to me. But at the same time, it's unfortunate that like you have to try so hard and it's like pulling teeth just to get
Yeah.
somebody to click a share button or to, actively try to support you on something that you're working so hard on. I don't think people realize how hard
They don't.
music and art and stuff really
They
is or how
don't.
expensive it really is. Like we come out of pocket thousands of dollars
Hmm.
on materials and hundreds of
Yep.
hours on pieces, and then like we get like maybe a couple plays on that song and we get like 0.0008 cents or whatever, and we've just spent like what some people make in a month
Yep.
just to release that one thing, or sometimes even more, just to
Yeah.
make and release that one thing. And it's a very hard grind. And I wish people would legitimately just take the time to support the arts a little bit more
Well,
and really try to help us because we pour all of our heart and soul and time and money into it.
Well, that's why I love you and I having this conversation today, because I think is, especially in the state of affairs we're in with the pandemic and everything else going on, this is a conversation very much
Yeah.
needed. So thank you for reaching out. And I feel like I'm doing my
Yeah.
part. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I get to have a conversation with you
For sure.
because
You are. You're
um,
doing what you need to do.
this is
Yeah.
how I can contribute. This is how I can support everybody that wants it. I have had
I
one other
appreciate
band.
it.
I've had one other band. I'm like, hey, can we do an
Yeah.
interview? And I'm like, I'm all about it. If you want to interview, you want to be featured on my platform, all you gotta do is reach out
Yeah.
to me. I'm happy to do it. But I'm not gonna
Which is
chase you.
great. I love the fact that you're so willing.
I'm not.
Yeah, I love
Here's
the
the
fact that
thing,
you're
though.
so
I'm not
willing to
gonna chase
support.
anybody. Well, I know.
No, that's not, and that you once again, as we stated before, you're not obligated to. You're not
Yeah.
obligated to support anybody or do that. So
Oh,
it's great that you do give people the opportunity for those who do ask.
absolutely. Well, and I feel it as an artist and a creative myself. I know, like, I've been doing art for over
Right.
10 years. I know, trying to make a living of all the stuff that I make. And I know how hard that is. And I know how
Hard.
challenging marketing be
Yeah,
and
for sure.
getting your friends support. So I've been on that side and still on that side now where I'm like, oh, somebody buy
Yeah.
it. I need to clear some inventory. But at the same time, I'm much more
Right.
much more
I mean,
passionate about giving artists and musicians a platform to share who they are, what they're about. Tell us about their latest projects like
right.
you're doing today.
Definitely.
Um, because that
I
is like
appreciate that.
I get to share that. And that feels so amazing to me that this stuff is nothing compared to what I get to do for you right now. So, what
I
you
appreciate
released lately?
that, honestly. And like, see, like for me, like it's the small things like this, like, that really matter, where it's like someone just is so nice and so willing to just, be like, hey, let's do this,
Yeah.
like, let's get you out there, let's see if, people will check it out. And it's the things like this where people just take maybe a little bit of time out of their day to just like
Mhm.
spend on or with me or whatever. And I think that that's really cool.
Yeah. So, what kind of music have you released? Anything that people should check out and listen to?
Yeah, so you can check out my debut single that came out July 3rd. It's called well, okay. So depending on how you pronounce it, there's two pronunciations that I've heard. There's Hiraeth or Hiraeth. It's spelled Hiraeth. It is a Welsh word, and it basically means like almost like homesick or feeling a nostalgia for something that was never yours or that you never had. Um, and so that's my first song. It's more of like a post-hardcore, like emo pop punk sort of thing. You can listen to it on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon, like
Awesome.
wherever. So that's out now. And actually, in 2 days from us recording this today, but so it'll be October 13th, is when the song drops. I have a song out or coming out called I'm Trying, and that was a song I wrote last year that I just decided to put out recently, in a more professional format. And um, yeah, that song comes out very soon, and that one's a little bit, slower and more of like I guess like a really sad power ballad about mental health. Um, like it's got the big like emo post-hardcore sort of vibes. And yeah, that one's it's kind of a more personal song, I think, for me. I was just going through like a really rough time last year around like holiday season. The song was written probably honestly not too long after now last year.
Hmm.
And a lot of stuff piled on. Basically, like I had um I had lost my job because I had gotten fired over an unjust cause. I, was struggling with some other like issues that I was having at the time. And like I had found out that I had been diagnosed with some new issues that made a lot of sense, but that were really disrupting my life. Um, and I'm still kind of working on those, and I'm going to therapy, and I have medication for it. But I was just going through a lot, and I got like really, really down. And I wasn't leaving the house. I wasn't like doing anything. I was just kind of like getting up, and it's one of those things where just like my mood was always very gray. I wasn't vibrant. I wasn't happy, and like I was going through a lot. And I wrote this song around that time period to really just. I basically just wrote this song about like just a tough time I was having last year.
All right.
No
Awesome.
worries. So yeah, that was it. Basically, it was a tough time. And I had that going on, and actually the art for it is right behind me. That's the
Oh,
cover art. My wife actually
nice.
designed that.
Oh, very cool.
And yeah.
Love it. So,
Mhm.
where can people find you? Tell them all the places.
Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, yeah, Google Play if people still use that, Pandora, like basically any major streaming platform. I'm also on Twitter at Tired Violence, and then every other platform. I'm on Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, at Tired Violence Band. And
All
if you go
right.
to tiredviolence.com, you can actually get some merch. I have a new shirt out, and you should check it out. It's like a throwback neon scene monster shirt. It's pretty cool.
Oh, nice. I am gonna check that out.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much
appreciate it.
for reaching out and having this
Mhm.
really amazing, much needed
Thank you.
conversation with me today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, honestly.